There are children of kings and queens. It's up to us to save them. That is worse than building things. You know it's time to stand like a people. You know it's time to stand like a people today. It's time to stand like a people. Stand up and say, no more wondering. We are finally on our way. Our mothers and fathers and elders, they have given us all they can. They stood up and fought to protect us in this hard and bitter land. Their trials must give us courage, every woman and man. None are free unless all are. We pledge our lives to take back our land. You know it's time to stand like a people. You know it's time to stand like a people today. It's time to stand like a people. Stand up and say, no more wondering. We are finally on our way. They have given us all they can. They stood up and fought to protect us in this hard and bitter land. Their trials must give us courage, every woman and man. None are free unless all are. We pledge our lives to take back our land. You know it's time to stand like a people. You know it's time to stand like a people today. It's time to stand like a people. Stand up and say, no more wondering. We are finally on our way.
Grand Rising Wose! Grand Rising. Welcome to Wose Community of the Sacred African Way. As we begin, we're reminded in the Hosea, eat not bread while another stands without extending your hand to him or her. As for food, it is always there. It is man and woman who do or do not remain. A person may be rich or poor, but bread remains with those who share it. One who was rich last year may be a vagrant this year. Therefore, do not be anxious to fill your belly without regard for others, for you know not where your course will lead. If you become needy, another may do you good. The water course of last year has disappeared, and this year another stream has appeared in its place. Great waters have become tracts of dry land, and seashores have disappeared into the ocean depths. No man or woman then walks a single way. This is a lesson from the Lord of life. Ashe. Now, Mama Fanya and Baba Ustadi will lead us in our affirmation.
Wose Community Affirmation. We will know God's truth to be free and self-determined.
Creator, help us to remember the humanity, glory, and suffering of our ancestors and to honor the struggle of our elders.
Let us strive to bring new vision and life to our people. Let there be peace and harmony among us.
Let us be loving, sharing, and creative. Let us work, study, and listen so we may learn, teach, and cultivate self-reliance.
Grant us power, O Holy One, as we struggle to resurrect our hearts and our homeland.
We will raise our children according to the needs of our nation with discipline, patience, devotion, and courage. We will strive to be the living model of the new directions of our people.
We are an African people.
We are children of God.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Now, Baba Jeffrey has a song for us.
To be free, to be free, to be free. Want my people to be free, to be free, to be free. That's all that matters to me. That's all that matters to me. That's all that matters to me. Hey, 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 hey. I want my people to be free, to be free, to be free. Want my people to be free, to be free, to be free. That's all that matters to me. Hey, my homie says shine light on the world, shine light for the world to see. My homie says shine light on the world, shine light for the world to see. I want my people to be free, to be free, to be free, to be free. I want my people to be free, to be free, to be free, to be free. That's all that matters to me. That's all that matters to me. I want my people to be free, to be free, to be free. Want my people to be free, to be free, to be free. I want my people to be free, to be free, to be free. Want my people to be free, to be free, to be free. I want my people to be free, to be free, to be free. Want my people to be free, to be free, to be free. So that makes me to be free. I want my people to be free, 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 to be free. people to be free, to be free, to be free. Want black people to be free, to be free, to be free. Want my people to be free, to be free, to be free. Want black people to be free, to be free, to be free. Hey, hey. The song that matters to me, the song that matters to me, the song that matters to me. Hey, hey, hey.
Most beautiful people on the face of this earth. Thank you, Papa Jeffrey. And now, Minister Malik has a historical tribute for us.
Thank you, Minister Bill. God morning, Wosay family. Just want to say it was good to see Mama Conke. She was getting it, wasn't she, doing that slide? Oh, good morning, good morning. Before I start my historical tribute, I'd like to give an African public service announcement. Historical tributes, the purpose of historical tribute is to keep our history, our herstory alive in the minds and hearts of our people, and specifically our children. History is our cultural incubator, which inspires, motivates, informs, prioritizes, and enshrines our rich legacy for generations yet unborn. Our history lives when we pass it on to generations unborn. Historical tributes are a cornerstone of the Wosay Community Church, allowing us to honor and pay tribute to our ancestors. I'd like to share my screen if I can. You know, those are three words that always causes me some concern when I say share my screen. Building on that point, here's a quote from Dr. John Henry Clark. History, it's not everything, but it is a starting point. History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is a compass that they use to find themselves on the map of human geography. Now, today's historical tribute is on the Houston Rebellion of 1917. Let me give you a brief synopsis of what occurred on that date. Shortly after the United States declared war on Germany in the spring of 1917, the War Department rushed to construct two military installations in Harris County, Texas, Camp Logan and Ellington Field. On July 27, 1917, the United States Army ordered the 3rd Battalion of the all-Black 24th Infantry Regiment to guard the Camp Logan construction site. The regiment traveled to Houston by train from their camp at Columbus, New Mexico, accompanied by 7 commissioned officers. Almost from their arrival, the presence of Black soldiers in strictly segregated Houston raised tensions. Jim Crow laws were in place, and the soldiers were forced to contend with segregated accommodations, including drinking facilities at the construction site. Prior to the riot, quote, now, you know, someone else's riot is our Black resistance and revolution. The soldiers were involved in a number of clashes with members of the Houston Police Department, several of which resulted in the soldiers sustained injuries after being beaten and attacked. The Houston Rebellion of 1917 was a mutiny by 156 soldiers from the all-Black 24th Infantry Regiment of the United States Army, taking place on August the 23rd, 1917 in Houston, Texas. The incident occurred within a climate of overt hostility from members of the all-white Houston Police Department against members of the local Black community and Black soldiers stationed at Camp Logan. Now I'm gonna show a video which will give more details of what occurred that day.
The true story of the Houston riot of 1917 will never be fully uncovered. and it can only be understood by taking into account the climate of fear created by race riots in South Texas and the Midwest leading up to the events that fateful August. The 3rd Battalion, 24th Infantry was in Houston for less than a month before the riot broke out, and they had already been confronted with the town's deep-seated racism, Jim Crow laws, as well as disrespect and hatred towards African American men wearing soldiers' uniforms. While the men's own officers stood up for the soldiers of the 24th and did their best to diffuse tensions, it was clear that Camp Logan was sitting on a racial powder keg. On the morning of August 23rd, 2 Houston policemen, Lee Sparks and Rufus Daniels, assaulted and arrested an African American soldier, Private Edwards, when he inquired about the arrest of an African American.
Seems like we've lost our sound, Brother Malik.
The soldiers feared an attack from a rumored mob of angry white Houstonians. 150 of the 654 soldiers of the 24th fled the camp, while more than 100 armed soldiers, possibly led by First Sergeant Vida Henry, began their march towards the jail. Left defenseless when their guns were confiscated earlier, the soldiers stole their weapons from the supply tent and began shooting almost indiscriminately. The riot fizzled out before the men reached the police station, with some men deserting, some men going into hiding, and others, such as Henry, being shot. Following the riot, martial law was enforced, and 118 enlisted men were indicted for participating in the mutiny. Of those men, 19 were hanged without federal review or appeal, and 63 more received life sentences in federal prisons. While 2 white officers faced court-martialing, they were summarily released, and not a single white civilian was brought to trial. The 3 trials of the men accused of participating in the Houston riots did, however, have a profound effect on the military court system. Following the trials, the Judge Advocate General created a military board of review to monitor the legality and the ethics of all military trials, especially to prevent the kind of summary judgments that led to the quick execution of so many men. This was the basis of today's armies of court of criminal appeals. Also, due to continued application for the imprisoned soldiers and the hasty handlings of the case, over time, many of the surviving soldiers were eventually freed from prison and awarded honorable discharges.
Excuse me. Just to emphasize, 19 soldiers were executed. And during this particular time, before Truman intervened, there was no right to appeal. So we'll say, as you can see, our historical tributes are a cornerstone of the Wosay Community Church. We invite each of you, any of you, to participate in our historical tributes. Photos or videos are not required, but just enhance the presentation. And so if you like the historical tributes and you want to be a part and participate in them, contact me. The entire calendar of 2023 is wide open. And we look forward to having many voices and many presentations to share whatever historical events that you would like to share with the community as a whole. That's my historical tribute for the day. I would like to pour a libation for the soldiers who were executed. Now we could disagree as to was it a mutiny, was it a riot, was it a revolutionary act? But the bottom line is, I think that those soldiers just got fed up with the way they were treated. Imagine you're wearing a uniform, you're putting your lives on the line for a country that does not love you, does not serve you. And I think they just were fed up with the way they were treated. And so we pour a libation for the 19 soldiers who were executed that day in the revolutionary struggle for freedom, justice, and equality. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Thank you.
Ashe. Thank you, Minister Malik. Now, Baba Jeffrey, you have another song for us?
The name of the song is I Wish I Knew How I Felt to Be Free.
Teach, Bob, teach.
I would that I knew how it felt to be free. I would I could break all these chains holding me. I would that I could say all the words that I should say them loud, say them clear, hold the wide world here. I would I could share all the love that's in my heart. Remove all the bars that keep us apart. I would you could see how it feels to be me. Then you see and agree that everybody, you gotta be free. I would I could be like the bird up in the sky. How beautiful it would be if I found I could cry. I'd float through the sun and look down on the sea. Then I'd see, 'cause I know how it feels to be free. I would that I knew how it felt to be free. I would I could break all these chains holding me. I would I could say all the words that I should say them loud, say them clear. Oh, I know here. I wish I could be like a bird up in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found that I could fly. I'd soar to the sun and look down on the sea. Then I'd see, 'cause I know how it feels to be free. And then I'd see, so I know how it feels to be free.
Yes. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you, Baba Jeff, and thank you, Baba Damu. Coming next, we'll have Mama Tony and Baba Katabazi offer us a litany of sacrifice.
Thank you, Minister Malik, for that great presentation and tribute.
Greetings, family. Litany of sacrifice. Save us, O Holy One, by your name. Vindicate us by your might. Hear my prayer, divine protector. Listen to the words of my mouth. How can we repay the Holy One for the gifts that have been given to us. We will lift up the cup of salvation and call upon the God of our ancestors.
Yes.
We will fulfill our vows to our Creator in the presence of all our people. Gladly, we bring our sacrifices to you. We praise your name, O Amun-Ra, for it is good. Umoja, unity. We shall strive to maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race.
Ujichagalia, self-determination. We shall define, name, create, and speak for ourselves.
Ujima, collective work and responsibility. We shall build and maintain our communities together. Our brothers, our sisters' problems shall be ours to solve together.
Ujamaa, cooperative economics. Together, we should build and maintain our own businesses and together profit from them.
Nia, purpose. We shall make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community and the restoration of our people to our traditional greatness.
Kuumba, creativity. We shall do as much as we can and any way we can to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than when we inherited it.
Imani, faith. We will believe with all our hearts in our God, our people.
And in the righteousness and victory of our struggle.
Ashe.
Ashe. And so the ways to make your contributions felt through the WOSE Oakland website link, as well as the WOSE Sacramento website link, the WOSE Oakland street address, 8924 Holly Street, Oakland, California, 94621. Also by mail to Sacramento, WOSE, P.O. Box 5271, Sacramento, California, 95817. And so as you prepare your contributions, I will close this litany of sacrifice with a brief prayer. O Holy One, divine creator, giver of all things, you who called this creation into existence and placed us in it. O Holy One, we thank you for life. We thank you for each and every one that made a contribution this morning. We thank you for those who gave generously. We thank you for those who gave what they had. We thank you for those who wanted to give but did not have it to give and hope to give at a later date. O Holy One, we thank you so much for these like-minded people, for all of those that have found their way here to this WOSE community. It is with great depth and great thanks that we come this morning. We're thankful for those who contribute their time, those that work to prepare this Zoom service, those that are working in committees and in commissions. We thank you for our ministerial staff and their work in preparing their messages for you each Sundays. We do not take these things lightly. We thank you, O Holy One, as we acknowledge your presence in our lives from the earliest of time when
human beings raised up as sentient beings. We felt your presence, and we continue to thank you. We continue to be grateful. We ask that you will bless the one that will bring the message today. We ask that you, in the audience, each and every one, open your hearts and minds to receive that message. And be with all of our members, those here, those in other states, those out of the country, traveling abroad. We ask for traveling grace and blessings. Be with us throughout the remainder of this service is my prayer. Ashe, Amen Ra. Ashe, Amen Ra. Ashe, Amen Ra.
And
Beautiful, beautiful.
beautiful. Thank you, Mama Tony
Sister Tony.
and Baba Katabazi. Now, from our state capital, not quite as dry as it used to be, thankfully, is our own dear Minister Alicia. Minister Alicia, please come forward.
Greetings, greetings, everyone. This wonderful day. Happy Soulful Sunday to everyone. This is such a great time. My favorite season is fall, and I know that we're coming out of the fall and going into the winter. So to all of God's people, I just want to say greetings, greetings, greetings. So yeah, winter solstice and sorry, my eyes are watering. Winter solstice and Kwanzaa is coming upon us. And Kwanzaa is like our, we'll say, high holy days, yeah? And in all of our celebrations, I would just like to say, for all of our people, please keep drinking your water, keep, drinking your healthy drinks, your healthy tonics, pay attention to the body, because there's a lot of people who are getting sick, and we just want to make sure that our people are doing what's right for their bodies. And that is a part of our sacred life as well, too, we don't want to forget that. We don't want to forget that, keeping with this body is also a spiritual act. A lot of times we're busy trying to separate things, but our ancestors told us that there's not that separation, and that we should not separate those things. That in keeping with the body, we also want to know that is a spiritual thing too. So that's going to transition us into our message today, which I'm very excited about. So Baba Bill, if I go crazy on time because I'm so excited about this message, like, hit me in the chat and be like, yo, cut it.
Roll with it.
So today I'm coming to you from our freedom writing is from The Destruction of Black Civilization, and I'm on page 90. Now, normally I don't hit this book because y'all know I be in the Hosea or in 2000 Seasons, because them's my books. But, today Mosai was like, we doing something different because we need to start, moving along, doing different things in preparation for the new year. Okay, so on page 90, Destruction of Black Civilization, under Thieves and the Role of Religion. Now, Minister Imhotep, and also, in this book, it does explain to us that when we're saying thieves, we're talking about, we'll say, we're not, it's different, two different names, but just from two different places. One's Greek. So the mother of all cities, excuse me, sorry, hold on, because I cannot see. The mother of cities, as it was called, was one of the chief centers of religion in Africa. The Blacks were a very religious people and had quite a number of religious cities, each one under the special patronage of a god, goddess, or any number of deities. The god and goddesses, this is the Neteru, of Thebes were among the most important because the city was so important. Because religion to the Africans was far more than ritual reflecting beliefs. but a reality reflected in their actual way of life. Religion from the earliest times became the dynamic force in the development of all the major aspects of Black civilization. The belief in immortality was a simple matter of course and beyond the realm of debate. This belief in life after death was the great inspiration for building on so grand a scale, attempting to erect structures that would stand forever. Necessity, therefore, gave birth to the mathematical sciences required for building the amazing pyramids and the architectural design for the most elaborate system of temple building the world has ever known. As the city of Amun, the king of the gods, and of his wife, the great goddess Mut, the temples and monuments to them alone had to be on a massive scale. There was also the war god of Thebes, the source of the power of the mightiest armies, the proudest and most fearless warriors. From this center, the empire alone, 20,000 war chariots could be put into the field. The hierarchy of deities not only included numerous lesser gods and goddesses, but also a long line of venerated former kings, queens, and ancestors. All of this not only inspired endless temple building at Thebes, but also concentration on attaining the highest standard of excellence. This in turn called for reflective thinking, invention, and discovery. Many of the temples were what we could call colleges, as the different fields of study were temple-centered. Here, scholars from foreign lands came to study, and from here, religious ideas and architectural design spread abroad. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to give you the title for today. The title for today is Reality Reflected in Our Way of Life. As we read, as we read here in the Destruction of Black Civilization, it said, now I took off my glasses. It says, because religion to the Africans was far more than ritual reflecting beliefs, but a reality reflected in their actual way of life. So with that theme and with that thought, I want us to kind of have that as our backdrop as I'm speaking. So as we were talking about before we start talking about keeping our health, we are not the body nor our minds, but we have to keep up with the functioning of our bodies because they are our vehicles. Just like we would keep up with our cars. We would go and get them, maintenance done on them. We would make sure if we hear something funny, we would try to check it out. If we need to make sure that there's the right kind of fluids in there and check our tires, all those things to maintain our vehicles, because those vehicles are what we are using to get from point A to point B. So just the same, our bodies are what we are using here on earth. We're not identifying with our cars and saying, I am my car, and we don't want to identify with these particular bodies and say, I am this body. But we do want to maintain this body and as much health as we can in order to use this as a vehicle to move on this earth, to use this body as a vehicle to do the will of the Most High on this earth. So our ancestors, of course, tell us that there is an inseparable link between the sacred and the secular. It talks about that in the Hosea on page 40. I'll read that too, so that you guys don't think, I'm making this up. I'm not making this up. It says on page 40 in the Hosea, clearly then, Ma'at, the quintessential moral and spiritual concept of the ancient Egyptian sacred literature, forms the core focus of the instructions, even though some rather secular situations and solutions are posed. Moreover, giving the inseparable link in ancient Egypt and other parts of Africa between the sacred and the secular, the attempt to separate them makes little sense and meets with even less success. Thus, the sages teach their children and the people, so everybody is getting taught this, to think ma'at, speak ma'at, and do ma'at in secular and sacred situations. For this will not only ensure a mutually beneficial community based on ma'at, but also everlasting life. Ashe. So we want to understand that the things that we are talking about here at Will Say, the things that we are thinking about here at Will Say, the things that we are doing here at Will Say is not just for Sunday, not just for, oh, I'm gonna go and do this particular ritual or anything like that. We want to make sure that what we are talking about here is actually lived out in our daily life. We want to understand that definitely reality is reflected in our way of life. This is the reality. In our reality, you know, we desire unity. In our reality, we want a healthy body so that we might be able to do the work of the Most High. So in those things, we want to make sure that we are in our way of life. It is a reflection of what the reality is to us. So when we look at the Nguzo Saba, because, you know, Kwanzaa is coming up, we want to look at the Nguzo Saba. We talk about the Nguzo Saba all the time. And I don't want that to be something where, okay, we're just reading it. We don't want things to be mere words here. We want it to be making sure that it's deep within our hearts and souls to the point that there's no distinction between what our character is and what we're doing than just the words on the paper. We want to be like, okay, well, they're saying unity, but I'm kind of, you know, doing my own thing over here. Or we want to say self-determination, but I'm gonna let so-and-so speak for me because, you know what, I'm tired of trying to correct them or whatever it is. We don't want to live that. What we want to live and what we want to manifest is us doing being and doing what we say we are. And I know that I'm giving this one message in 50 different ways. And I'm doing that because the Most High keeps continuously telling me that his people, God's people, needs to be walking what we're talking. And we need to do that so fierce. That needs to be the focus. It's like when we're talking about things of Kwanzaa, when we're talking about the 4 pillars of Will Say, when we're talking about what we believe and what we practice, and we're going to go over that too, we have to be walking that daily. We have to be walking that daily. It can't just be, this is on the back of our worship folder. And we just tell people who are looking it up on the website. We have to do it daily. It has to be a part of us. We have to let go of those little things that keep us from doing what it is that we know to do. So when we're talking about Kwanzaa, the Kwanzaa is coming up, and I'm sure that we're going to be talking about it more and more and more, and we should never stop talking about it. And I'm not just talking about the celebration. We should never stop talking about the idea behind Kwanzaa, which is bringing together of all the different celebrations that they saw, the things that were similar, the things that were combined. What value do we share in Northern Africa that the same value is in Southern Africa and East Africa and West Africa and in the Caribbean, and also you see it in the United States? What are those shared values? That was the thought behind Kwanzaa. That was the thought behind putting all these things together. It wasn't just I'm going to have some mazel here, and I'm going to have, you know, a bandera, and I'm going to have, and we want to just, you know, jive and celebrate. We want to get together those values. We want to put together those things that make us unified. We want to put together those things that are common between here in Sacramento and there in Florida and way over in Ghana and down in South Africa and over there in Ethiopia. We want to make sure that those things are common so that if I happen to meet an Ethiopian, we kind of like, hey, we still have these things in common because this is the way I run my life. This is the way it's a value. It's an instinctive value. We want to get it to where it's instinctual Ron Nefer Amen tells us that if we don't have a particular aspect that we desire to have, we have to go into meditation and we have to instill that within us. We have to create scenarios within our minds about what we are going to do in any given situation. So if we have a situation that's coming up and we know that every time it comes up, it pushes our buttons or we are acting outside of Ma'at, we want to go into meditation and work on that. We have to do the work. So we have to go into meditation and create the scenario in our minds about how this is coming up and tell ourselves this is the correct response. So when it comes to unity, it says we want to strive to maintain unity. And I added in through the self. That's my personal adding in unity within the self. Doing this through yoga, meditation, and prayer. Within the family, doing family activities, doing get-togethers. Because a lot of times, like one side of my family, we don't really get together very often. And so our family is not that we're disunified, is that our level of unification could be greater. A lot of times we just get together in funerals. And then it's like, I haven't seen you in like 10 years. Why haven't I seen you in 10 years? You know, and then the other side of the family is getting together all the time. So they're knowing about everybody's child, all the stuff that they're doing and everything. And so it creates a bigger bond of unification. So if your family is a family that we don't really get together, maybe you can be the one in the spirit of Umoja, in the spirit of walking the talk, in the spirit of, striving to maintain unity in the family. Maybe you could be the one that calls up your family and say, hey, let's get together. It doesn't have to be all of your family. It could be a few people within your family. Start building those bonds. We have to stop thinking that we're just going to go from 0 to 100. Learn how to start building the bonds, especially if they're not there. Building unity within the community. Do some community activities, do some community potlucks, do a karaoke, do anything that could get your community together. And this doesn't necessarily have to be just people on your block. It could be you have a community of soccer moms or soccer dads. And you have a lot of them that come together. We do this just for soccer, and then we go back. We come together for the games, and then we don't really know each other. Build bonds within that and say, hey, let's all just get together one day. Be that get-together person. Be that unification person. That person who's going to be like, well, I'm building these things within the community. In the nation, a lot of times it seems like, okay, it's so difficult for me to even think about how could I be able to build unity within the nation. And my thoughts of that was to use your skills to building confidence in seeing each other as a nation, or promoting our flag, promoting the red, black, and green. There are a simple thing, like even by wearing it, say, hey, make 100 t-shirts with the red, black, and green on it and distribute them out. Hey, how about that? Just think of ideas that you could do to kind of unify people who have a thought process of a nation within a nation. Just like Dr. Amos Wilson tells us. A lot of us don't see ourselves as a nation within a nation, which is why a lot of the times our economics aren't right, our communities aren't right, because we're not seeing each other as, okay, we're a nation within a nation. We are a nation. And as far as the race, to understand and educate and promote Pan-Africanism, we're all one. Educate and promote that. Because a lot of times it's a lot of distinctions and separations. So if you're the person that's always saying, hey, no, we're all one. Hey, no, we're all one. Hey, no, we're all one. That's part of striving to maintain unity. It doesn't have to be grand scale. It has to be working on the thoughts and minds of people. Because people will go after what it is that their thoughts and their minds are ruminating on. So if every time they're talking to you, you're talking about, oh, no, we're all one people. So, hey, we don't want to, have this unification. If you're the one always saying that, when they're thinking of you, they're thinking of unity. And therefore you have put into practice one of the principles, and you have become and living and being reality of one of the principles. Kujichagulia, doing for ourselves. If there is a choice to be made, choose to do for self. Promote and do self-sufficient activities. Grow your own garden, make your own clothes, create your own artwork. And here's the thing that we've been discussing in my family. Speaking up when somebody mispronounces your name. It could be as simple as that. When you're doing Kujichagulia, when you're making into reality Kujichagulia. If a lot of us have African names. When they mispronounce your name, say something about it. They may never get it right. But you being self-determined, that creates, okay, no, that's not my name. This is my name. That's not how you say it. This is how you say it. Each and every time. Don't waver. Don't stop. Don't get tired of it because they need to have your name correct. Because if not, they're going to end up calling you Toby. Because if your name is Kutakense, they're going to keep going. Oh, your name is Toby. No, that's not what it is. Kujichagulia, do for ourselves. Create things for yourself because you know what? You have to notice that things don't fit. When you have to notice when things don't fit. And I'll give you an example. So as I was growing my locks, I had an issue. I liked to wear hats because my head would get cold, right? I've always been that way. So as I started growing my locks, I started noticing like these hats that I'm buying from the store or these hats that I'm looking at the store, they don't fit me. So I'm thinking, who the cat fit, right? No, but really they just didn't fit. They wouldn't go over my locks. The hat would be up here. It just wouldn't be warm enough for me because it wouldn't reach down and be where it's supposed to be because my hair was thick. So I had to go into what my mother taught me, which was making things for yourself. She taught me knitting. She taught me crochet when I was young. By this time, I was in college. And I said to myself, I just gotta make my own hat. I kind of didn't remember how to do it, but I said, I'm gonna make my own thing. So I went to the store, I got some yarn, I got some knitting needles at the time. I was knitting at the time. And I sat in my college apartment and tried to remember how to make that myself. And so from that point to this point, I've been making crowns. I've been making hats because I can't be the only person in the world who is like, my head does not fit in these hats that they have out there. Mm. So it's a doing for yourself. It's a noticing that this stuff don't fit you and start creating things for yourself. Because when you're looking at artwork, a lot of times, you're looking at stuff that is not having anything to do with African people. Mm. It don't fit. So create for yourself. And as you're creating it for yourself, you're showing it to others and other people who have the same issue and the same problem of not seeing themselves in art. Then you're eradicating some type of an issue and a problem that's been going on. You're putting out there more artwork. You're putting out there more doing for self. Ujamaa, get together, building and maintaining, working an economic structure within your mind of wealth building for your people. They have the Buy Black movements. If you just think of the thought process to yourself, first and foremost, let me think of if I can go and buy this from a Black person. If you can't, you can't. If it's not working out, it's not working out. But if the first thought in your mind is finding a Black business to be able to support, that becomes more of a habit. And then you might end up running into more businesses that you need, because you're actually searching for those. You're not just going to your local Target. You're not just going to your local whatever. You're searching out. So it becomes a habit of, oh, well, I know that so-and-so has this, and I know that so-and-so has that. So that's just becomes something that's already on your radar. So, and as we become business owners, remember to give back to the community. As your business starts picking up, give back to the community. Have your business assigned to something that's doing something for African people. and funnel some of that money into that, whether it be a neighborhood school, whether it be a program that's helping African children, whether it be something overseas in Africa. But make sure if you're a business owner, giving back is very important, because it just doesn't go for the people who's spending. It also goes for the business owners. Nia, our job collectively is to build commonalities and bridge gaps. Building those commonalities and bridging gaps between us is our job, our collective work to build those communities. Kuumba, being creative, using your talents and gifts. Most High gave us all talents and gifts. Those talents and gifts aren't just for us. If I know how to sing, which I don't, but I really would like to, if I knew how to sing and I was a really good songstress, that singing is not just to be used in my shower or to just use while I'm in my closet getting ready. That is a gift and a talent that Most High gave you to be able to share with the community, to be able to share with others, to be able to share with your children. So if I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've been given this gift or I've been given this talent and I'm just going to use it to even make money for myself. Where's the giving for the community? These gifts and talents are not just for you. They are there to sustain you, to make you money. That's fine. But make sure you're offering it to the community. If somebody says, hey, would you come sing? Oh, I'm sorry, we have a little money, but we don't have a lot to pay you, but we want to give you a little something, a little gift. Don't be like, well, that's not what I'm usually given. So no, you know, it's a gift and talent for the community. Please use it to build our people. Imani, believing that we are fighting the good fight. So it's even, okay, so Emperor Haile Selassie had given a speech to the UN and it got put into a song by Bob Marley. And my son gave that speech a few weeks ago. But in part of that speech, it says, we Africans will fight. We find it necessary. And we know we shall win as we are confident in the victory of good over evil. If you are confident in the victory of good over evil, your fighting is not in vain. Your fighting is even given extra punches because of the fact that you know that what you're doing is a righteous doing. If you're doing what's right, you can fight even much more harder for that. So that's in the spirit of Imani, like, we got to believe in this and understand this, that good wins out over evil. My son and my daughter run track. If they go into their track meet thinking that they're going to lose, they lose. My son, he plays basketball. This is Tawu. He plays basketball, and one day he went into the game thinking we're gonna lose. Oh, this team is so good, we're gonna lose. And guess what? That other team shut them down. They shut them down. And it's like the power of your thoughts and the power of your words. A lot of people just take that for granted. And I try to tell them, don't say stuff like that, because you're putting out a vibration of what is to come. You're putting out that particular vibration and you are magnetizing them to yourself. So what you say is very important. So you have to be careful of the words that you're using when you're speaking over your life, when you're speaking over your people. That's why I continue to say, don't keep saying that we're not unified. Don't keep, even if it's like, sometimes you're like, dang, we can't even get it together. Don't keep vocalizing that. Don't keep thinking that way, because the more that we do that is positive, the more that is magnetized to us in its positivity. I noticed that even in relationships. And I don't want to put myself on Front Street, but I'm going to do it for this point. There was a time in my marriage when I was like all on the negative. I was like, oh my God, this and that. Oh, the complaint. Oh, the complaint. Oh, the complaint. And it just kept getting worse. And I was like, this is not okay. But then Most High was like, that's because you're focusing on every negative thing. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, there are positive things. So we start focusing on the good. Your focus. It's not like you're saying sweep stuff under the rug. It's not like you're saying, oh, those years of slavery, don't worry about that. It's not like you're doing that. But you want to focus on what is good. So I began to do that in my relationship. Oh, I love when, oh, I'd really liked that. Oh, I missed when, let's try this again. And after a while, it was like, it wasn't that he couldn't do no wrong, but I tell you, it was a much, much better thought process in my mind. And our relationship started getting better because I started focusing on the good in the relationship as opposed to thinking every negative thing. You know, because when you're in a relationship of long lengths, you have to understand that there's ups and downs in everything. So if you focus on the positive things within your relationship, if you focus on the positive within that person, you're going to start receiving that positivity way back to you. And that just doesn't go for intimate relationships. That goes for family relationships. That goes for community relationships. That goes for African people learning how to be unified. We are more unified than ever before here at WOSE. So we have to think of these thoughts. It's good over evil. We are going to win this fight because we know and we are confident in the victory of good over evil. So when we're talking about Imani, yes, I have all faith. I don't care what we might have had a setback, but I have all faith that the Africans are going to win this.
That
the Africans are going to go forward and build themselves up and rise up because I see it happening all the time. What the problem is it's not televised. That revolution is not televised. The fact that you have African homeschools right now, you have freedom schools all over the place. You have people teaching children in the Superior Truth Multicultural Center. You have Ileomida. You have people teaching the African children the righteous things. And you're telling me that we're disunified? You're telling me that we're not going to win? You have African people with their African minds prepared and teaching these children. So I have all faith. And then in the end, I may not live to see it. I may not live to see the grand, Dios moments of it all, but I'm living to see this. I see it happening. And so we don't want to downplay that. We want to seek those things that are beautiful. We want to seek those things that are good, and we want to uplift those things within our hearts and minds. We're not sweeping other things under the rug, but okay, we understand that that's there. We're going to fight against it through this way, where our minds are going. And that's what our ancestors were doing. When I was reading from Destruction of Black Civilization, because they believed in life after death, they went and started building for eternity, because that was their knowledge base. Their knowledge base is that there's life after passing away. So because of that, I want to make sure that when I build things, they're strong, they're good for my family. People years from when I physically pass right now can enjoy these things. They can understand life. They can be understanding of what was going on here. They didn't build things like sometimes we build today. Here today, gone tomorrow. They built knowing there's life after death. And in doing so, it was necessity that they learned the sciences, that they learned the mathematics, that they had communities of people who were artisans. They had communities of people who were artisans, just so that they could preserve the knowledge, just so that they can build beauty. And these people created and had all of these things here. And as they started being uncovered thousands and thousands of years later, now we have a new reemergence of who we were. And that the lies that we've been told are false. Because they will always tell you that Black people were nothing until never. We just never were anything. We started out, you know, I guess we were just laying on the ground or whatever, I don't know what we were doing, what they expected us, telling us that we're doing before a day came along. But we see that that's false. It's obvious because our ancestors left that. So we here in Western 2022, we have to understand that our building has to be that same way, because that's the way our ancestors told us to do. That's what our ancestors have put down as the standard. The standard is excellence. Our minimum is excellent. Our C students are excellence in comparison. So we have to think about that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking at, like, when you look at the people who come to WOSE, like we always say, we're all scholars. And it's like scholars teaching scholars. That's the mindset here. You know what I'm saying? When we look at the words of the in the destruction of Black civilization, they talk about scholars came. The scholars came to learn in Africa. The scholars came to learn in Kemet. The scholars came to learn at WOSE. That's what they said. That's what the words were. It wasn't, and not to say anything bad about anybody who's less scholarly, but you know, the people who's dropouts and those people who, you know, wasn't really interested in learning about anything, those weren't the people that came. The scholars came. The scholars were the ones that came to the city of WOSE to learn, which is what we do here at WOSE. We teach those that are scholarly. The education of the mind, the education of the body, the education of the spirit, the education of soul is what we do here. And when we're talking about what we believe and what we practice, we're talking about the way is ma'at, truth, justice, and righteousness. We believe the teachings of our elders and our ancestors that the Creator God created the universe and all life and has placed in each of us a part of the divine spirit. God living in us and through us has given us the right and the power. We are not powerless in this. A lot of people will put that, oh, we're okay, there's only a few of us, therefore, no, wait. Because if you really understand it, this says, the Creator God created the universe and all life. And the Creator who created the universe and all life lives in us and through us has given the right and the power. So Most High has given us this power. So the one that created the universe lives within us and has given us the power. So we can't be powerless. I don't care if there's 10 of us, if there's 5 of us, if there's 30 of us, if there's 300 of us. Most High lives in us and has given us this power to establish peace and to establish justice in all human life and true harmony with all of creation. We believe in the living faith of our ancestors. And what were we talking about our ancestors believe in life after death and the fact that you build for eternity? You build in excellence. It's excellent because it's necessary to be excellent. And back in the day, our parents used to tell us you got to be twice as good, which created a level of excellence. Because Our ancestors back in the day said, hey, there's life after death. Therefore, this stuff has to be excellent. We are building for the Neteru. Therefore, this has to be excellent. This has to be of the highest quality. If you're building your life as a monument for the Most High, it has to be excellent. It has to be of the highest quality. Our way is not merely ritual belief. Our way is a way of life. That is the title of today. Basically, this is a way of life. It's not just, I'm going to come to Sunday, I'm going to sing a song, and I'm going to pray a prayer, and then I'm going to go along my way. No, this is our life every day. You should be having Wosei service in your life every single day. We just come together to do it together on Sunday. The meditations, the prayers, we should be reading our scriptures, singing our songs all throughout the week, making up new songs, saying, hey, Wosei, this song came to me. Saying, hey, Wosei, this poem came to me. Our way is not a random path. Our way begins with coherent understanding. This means we didn't randomly say, hey, we're just going to be Africans today. Who wants to join me? No. It's with coherent understanding, which means, again, the scholars, those who studied. Minister Calhoun and Minister Makalisi were those who studied. And they were looking at the words of the scriptures that I put down there, and it was like, hey, wait, we need to kind of think of this in a different way, because this is what this says. So why are we doing different? And then 42 years later, we'll say it's still going strong. Building for eternity, building for our people. It is a way that aims at preserving knowledge of who we are. You have to remember who you are. You have to remember who you are. And the preservation of that knowledge is what we do here. Binding together and picking up those pieces of Asar and putting them back together. Picking up the scattered pieces of Asar and putting them back together. Binding them together. Binding them together and be able to create. And all of our creations are immaculate conceptions. Because you're putting together the pieces of your holy body, of your Holy Spirit that is within you. You're putting together those pieces with your prayers, with your meditations, with your reading of the scriptures, with your meditation on those scriptures. You're putting together those pieces with your study of history, with your movement and saying, I'm going to go to a Black-owned store, with your movement of saying, I'm going to build unity within the community, with your movement and saying, I'm not letting these people keep mispronouncing my name. You can figure it out. And it doesn't have to be other people. It could be our own people, because the way our tongues move today, speaking in English, is different. So we are helping ourselves when we help each other. I'm going to help you pronounce my name correctly, so that your tongue can now pronounce those things that used to be so easy. Down to speaking one language. Our mouths are not doing what they used to do. So in helping someone else and saying, hey, you're going to speak my name, you're going to remember, you're going to get that little piece of who you were put back together so we can have some immaculate conception. It is with this conviction that we study the rich heritage of our African people. That's a conviction. It's a way that aims at preserving knowledge of who we are. We're preserving the knowledge, and it's a conviction that we do that. So that we're going to study the rich heritage of our African people. The way is reciprocity. The way is wholeness. The way is unity and self-determination. It is creativity, collective work and responsibility. Our way is faith, purpose, and cooperative economics. There goes the Nguzo Saba again. This is our way. This is the way of behaving. The way collectively, when you're looking at me collectively, And individually, you should see these things. You should see self-determination. You should see faith. You should see unity and a push for unity. You should see cooperative economics. You should see these things. The way knows no oppression. I'm not oppressing you in order to find unity. I'm not going to oppress you in my economics, because that's not what God does. It's people who try to oppress you and get you to do what it is that they want you to do, to be their puppet, to be their slave. Most High has given us free will, and that tells you right there, he is not a God of oppression. Because God could just tell us, y'all gonna serve me every day, all night. This is what I want you to do. This is what I have. No, he gives you free will. If you love me, you might want to do A, B, C, and D. If you're seeking after me, A, B, C, and D, I'm here. It's your choice if you want to find me. It's your choice if you want to seek after me. I'm here, and I'm always going to be here. You make your decision. Make that decision. It's just like if you're in a relationship and the person's like, oh yeah, you have to love me. Oh, you're gonna love me? All that. Like, no, Most High is like, look, I'm right here. I am your creator. If you can see that, if you can feel me, come this way. If you want to go do your own thing and you think that you can navigate this craziness that we call life on your own, do you? You figure this out. And that's just to say, their way knows no oppression. It is what it is. The sun is not oppressing us. It's going to come up and it's going to go down in our view. We know intellectually the world is turning, but in our view, our eyes are telling us the sun is rising and the sun is setting. It's not there to oppress us. It's not there to, say, hey, you must do this or you must do that. Our way creates, just like we were talking about before, building for eternity, because we're sitting here thinking to ourselves, okay, my brother, my sister has an issue. I see as our people, we have an issue. What can I do? I'm going to get in my creative mind. I'm going to bring out my gifts, my talents, and see how we can better this situation. This is what it's all for. It's not for show. It's not for power seeking. It's not for any of these things. Our way worships and praises the God of our ancestors. This way is life. This way destroys only destruction. The only destruction that you will see, or that you should see, coming out of Ma'at, or coming out of the African way, is destruction itself. Things that work against unity should be destroyed. Those are the only things that's going to be destroyed, because this is the way of life. The way is life. So we want to look at these things that we continue to say over and over again, and we don't want them to just be words. You could say them as affirmations. This is what I'm affirming. We have affirmations here at WOSE. We say them all the time. Kwanzaa is coming up. We say these things all the time. What we believe, what we practice, we say these things all the time. But we also need to delve into them and look at them and see how those things can become reality in our lives. And if the Nguzo Saba is reality in my life, and the Nguzo Saba is reality in your life, and the Nguzo Saba is reality in the lives of each and every person under the sound of my voice who will ever hear this message, if we all create this as a reality, how much better are we going to see ourselves? How much better is our children going to see ourselves? Because sometimes our kids don't just listen to our words. My kids definitely don't just listen to words, because they are my child. So I'm going to say this and then I'm going to conclude, because I have no clue about my time frame. But when I say things to my children, they are always, or I should say for the most part, agreeable. Yes, mom. I get it. But more powerfully is when I'm not saying things to them. I'm just doing me. and I'm doing right. If I'm doing the right thing, as well as if you're doing the wrong thing, your children will show those rights and wrongs to you. The word is important, yes, because it can get very deep within, and it can rise up when necessary. However, what you do is also important, because what you do is mimicked. So you have to be, as parents, as people who are elders, because I will tell you this, I'm gonna say the story. Here's the thing. When I was growing up, my parents were not pro-Black. Oh, this, oh, that. They didn't talk about that stuff. They talked about Jesus all the time. And they set the foundation for myself and my sister. They talked about Jesus. They talked about the Bible. We went to church all the time. Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, Wednesday Bible study, Saturday choir rehearsal. We had usher practice. We had this, we had that. It was all church all the time, all Jesus all the time, right? Okay. But little things. When my mom was watching TV, she'd be watching a game show. She voted for a Black person every time. Go on, so sister, go on, so brother. That was an impression in my mind as growing up. You vote for your people. You sit there and you get excited for your people to win things, right? Getting into knowledge of who I was didn't happen until high school. A friend of my mom's came by and she looked in my room and she was like, basically like, why are there no brothers on the wall, right? She was like, where are the Black people on your wall? Because I love to, my house was filled with posters. My room was filled with posters. And so, and I didn't really think about that. That wasn't really a thought process of mine as I was growing up. It was just whoever I saw on TV, whoever I liked, and I happened to get a poster of it. I didn't think about that. So she brought over a poster to me, and it had on there Queen Ty and Queen Amina. And it sat in my room. She was like, this is what you need to be looking at. You should have some Black people up here. So I sat there and I read over that poster almost every single day as I was growing up, right? Then I was in high school, and then my first couple years of high school, I really wasn't tripping. There was a Black student union there, wasn't tripping about that. But I finally got into there because one of my friends were interested. So we went in there and I learned so much about who I was, about myself. So even those of you guys, I'm saying this to say this, those of you guys who don't have children, or those of you guys that your children are grown, you can still be an influence for somebody. Because we should not take for granted that all of our young people even have their Africanness on radar. Not that they're against it, just that it's not on the radar. So for them to see us and see how we move in the community, they see how we do things, they see how we are, they see how gentle we are with them, they see how we're buying from Black people. They see how we, create unity by coming and creating a community or doing things within our community. Oh, this person always has the annual whatever, and it's a Black person. They can see us doing good things instead of seeing us doing the negative. How it builds up a pride in their mind. The people who were talking to me when I was younger, they were exceptional people. They were beautiful people. They weren't shysters or people who stole from each other. They were not people who were always wrong. One was a teacher. The other was a friend of my mother's. And the people who I met subsequently, all awesome people. So when they're teaching me about my African history, when they're going through poetry and saying our people created this beautiful poetry, that's when I began to understand and have pride of who I was, have that reality. So if each of us are walking the walk that we talk, then guess what? Somebody else is going to see that. And they're going to walk that walk with you. It ain't about me shoving a gun down your throat and saying you must believe in my aunt or else. I will never do that. That's ridiculousness. It really is. So here's the thing. We just have to be. We have to be who we say we are at all times and in all ways. Do your best. Nobody's perfect. We get it. But if you make a conscious effort to have your reality reflected in your way of life, those things that you say you believe, those things that you say what we believe and what we practice, those things that we're talking about during Kwanzaa, put them into practice. Find ways, be proactive in those things so that becomes your reality around you. My reality does not include oppressiveness. My reality is not including somebody always calling me out of my name. My reality does not include that because I'm saying beautiful things to beautiful people. I'm looking at African markets. I'm looking at Ile Omides. I'm looking at the beauty of our history. I'm looking at the wonderful things that we've done. I'm looking at the fact that we have a claim and a stake here in America, just as we have a claim and a stake there in Africa. I'm looking at the fact that our African people are all over the place. So don't try to separate me from an African person that is in South America or in the islands. Just because they got dropped off there, my ancestors got dropped off someplace else, or they migrated or moved someplace else. They moved from one place to the other place. That's not that I'm not separating myself from that. Not gonna do it. So I want to reread, not the whole thing, of course, but the part where it says, necessity, therefore, gave birth to the mathematical sciences required for building and the amazing pyramids and the architectural designs for the most elaborate system of temple building the world has ever known. Religion to the Africans was far more than ritual reflecting beliefs, but a reality reflected in their actual way of life. Amen and Ashe.
Amen and Ashe.
Say something.
Thank you, Minister Alicia.
Ashe.
Thank you, Minister Alicia. Wonderful message.
I think somebody has made a really great addition to Lift Every Voice and Sing. He is a songwriter. He is a organizer. Don't be looking around. I'm talking. You know who I'm talking about. Don't try to duck out now. We're going to have Minister Makalisi, if you would close us out, sir.
Ashe, giving thanks and praises for this day of life, health, and strength. For this community meeting, from all the events from the beginning, I want my people to be free. Oh, yes, indeed. And history is not everything, but it's a great starting point for sure, especially the history of our people, you know. And Minister Alicia, oh my goodness, really brought the word, really brought the word. So we're gonna lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the glistening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. March on with Amin Ra, march on in the spirit of March. March on with Septepi power every day, every hour. And let's do all we can for truth and justice throughout the land. The sacred African way, Akujas and Nirashi. March on, march on with Amin Ra. So as we prepare to close this worship service, this gathering, let's give thanks and praises to the sacred ancestors who united with us today, those whose spirits resounded within us as we heard their names called out, those whose names we didn't hear, but we know they were uttered in the hearts and minds of sisters and brothers who reflected on those ancestors who inspired their lives. And even those ancestors whose names were not called, but they wanted to be with the people of the sacred African way, they joined us today. I want to give thanks for that. May they be with us as we continue in the path of knowing God's truth, so we can be free and self-determined, to be loving and creative, individually and collectively, designing, creating, speaking for ourselves, as we strive to be living models of the direction of truth, beauty, and goodness for our children and generations beyond our imaginations. So in that light, through the spirit of mind, through the power of Septepi within us, let us always strive to rise up and be presented before the throne on high as the people with one heart, one heart,
One heart,
one mind,
one mind,
one vision,
one vision,
one faith,
one faith,
one love,
one love,
one sacred destiny,
One sacred destiny.
one divine creator.
One divine creator.
And now let us utter together with all our hearts and souls an expression of thanks and praises to the Most High, our Creator. I want to hear we say, Ashe Amin Ra. Say that 3 times and then close off with a Ashe. Oh, Ashe Amin Ra. Ashe Amin Ra. Ashe Amin Ra. Ashe. Now, with all our hearts and souls, let us share with each other what our Creator and what our ancestors want us to know, want us to show every day, every hour of our lives, of our existence, that we are what? That we are the most beautiful people on the face of this earth. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
Sending this picture, hopefully we can put this on your computer.
Let's get on, let's, Mama, Queen Mother Thurston wanted to say, and she led us in this, let's join together. Let's take ourselves off mute. Queen Mother Thurston, I heard you. Let's say, Amen. All right, give thanks.
Yes,
What
yes.
for such a